Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Megan Kieran, and today I have a very, very special guest, my friend Nicole. She's also known as Nicole in Nature. She is an astrologer, a yoga teacher, a wildlife biologist, and she calls herself a spiritual scientist because she is a jack of many trades. Nicole, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. It's
I
been
know. I
honestly
am
like it was bound
excited.
to happen.
Yes, this was meant to be because we've known each other for over 10 years now. And we met in college, go Huskies, UConn.
Mhm.
And it's cool because it's like we both saw each other at the beginning of our journeys in some ways, right? At that point, you had just begun your yoga teacher training, I believe, or you were starting to do yoga. I think we went to a class or two together. And it kind of all snowballed from there, right? So can you just kind of tell everyone a little bit about your journey, what you do, and how it relates to this beautiful, magical world that we live in?
Oh my gosh. All right. That's a wonderful opening question. Thank you for the nice introduction, by the way. And, you know, the journey was not, I don't remember the first day of my spiritual journey opening up. I think I've always been secretly spiritual. And I mean, even thinking back to when I was little, I hardcore believed in fairies, and I still believe in fairies now. Um, but that was a very magical, mystical time, and I always wanted to be in this magical realm. And then I went to college and started pursuing a science degree, and that changed things for me. I became a lot more realistic and, well, quote unquote realistic, right? Science is the answer, everything's black and white. You have to test everything with hypotheses, and we need, proof to even, physical data to prove things. So then I took this different route of being more, atheist almost, and like kind of lost that spiritual side. And but at the same time, in college is when I started really getting into yoga. And I learned very quickly that yoga was not just a workout class and just getting flexible. It was this all-encompassing practice. It's a lifestyle, it is a way of living. And I just learned a lot about myself on and off the mat. Just doing breath work and sitting and learning how to meditate was really huge for me. I was just starting to get more introspective. It was less about how I'm being perceived by the outer world, which is so typical in your early 20s. You really care about making other people happy and impressing other people. And then when I would sit and quiet my mind, that's when I would like discover my inner self and my inner world and realize like, oh, it's not, maybe I'm not matching what I'm putting out into the world. Like there's other sides of me. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of, I mean, college a little bit, but then fast forward like a few years after college, I did do my yoga teacher training. And because I always wanted to just teach, I love teaching in general, teaching so many aspects, subjects, and things. And I dove into teaching yoga. And my background is wildlife, conservation, and typically when you get out of school, you do a lot of seasonal jobs, short-term gigs, and you might have to travel to places. I traveled all over the country to do these crazy, field work jobs where I'm tracking deer in the swamps of Florida, and then I go to the Outer Banks and track this little shorebird, and then I ended up in Kansas. And Kansas was my most middle of nowhere job. And it's really interesting about Kansas because it was the middle of winter and most of my field work was looking at, I would go out in the middle of the grasslands, fields, and look at a small plot in the middle of a field and count all the different grass species that I'm looking at. It was a really tedious job. And I lived with three other coworkers. That was it. And two of the three were dating, and one had a boyfriend long distance. So at night, everyone would kind of disperse and go do their own thing.
Hmm.
And right before I got there, I bought my own first tarot card deck, which, may I add, you can buy your own tarot and oracle card decks. A lot of people think that it should be gifted, which is wonderful. It's not bad to buy your own. So I bought my first tarot card deck, and I remember just playing around with the cards, and then I was like, ooh, a full moon is happening. Should I do something like to honor the full moon? And then I would like Google things like what to do to honor the full moon. And I like collected a few like things I found in nature. I had a feather, I had a little prairie dog skull and some shells that my friend sent me. And I set up little tea candles, and I would start to meditate on the full moon, and I would look up journaling prompts and things like that. But that was when I got really spiritual, when I was really bored,
Wow.
to be honest. And that was,
Yeah.
and it was also perfect. It was the perfect container because it was introspective. I was by myself and I
Yeah.
didn't have any other distractions. And so that's when my whole journey started, was in the middle of
Mm.
Kansas, actually. So that's my little background for you.
Wow, that's so cool. It kind of took you from being away from the coast to kind of be in like a cave, it seems like, to find that opening to your spiritual self again. That was there when you were a child, right? Like the fairy-like wonder that we kind of experience as children is something that, you know, can definitely exist. And I think we're getting back to that reality that nothing is actually black and white and that there is so much more that we don't know around us. Yeah, and it comes with the moon and the stars. And I love how you were drawn to that. And that's kind of what opened up the door for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting you just said like being away from the coast and being in this like, yeah, this cave, because that's what it was. And it was also winter, which to me,
Mm.
winter is a very wonderful time to get introspective and slow down and like tune in, because you don't have a lot of outward distractions. Um, and it's just, even just thinking about my spirituality, it has evolved so much over time. That was just like baby steps. I wasn't fully there yet. I remember right after that, I went to a job in Oregon, and I went to this little market, and this woman had all these little fairy houses. And I'm like, oh, I love this. I'm like, I used to believe in fairies. And she goes, why don't you think they're real now? And I was like, oh. And
Wow.
but that to me, I was like, I felt so adult in that moment. Like, oh, I let go of my imagination, and it still wasn't, it didn't set in till a little later
Right.
that I was like, fairies definitely exist in another plane and dimension for sure. Uh,
Yeah.
for our woo-woo people out there. But you know, you don't realize how much you can grow up, quote unquote, and lose that connection, because I do think children very much have this deep connection with spirituality and reality, especially me going to school and learning science, and they can easily just mask it.
I love that though, because that perspective of having a science background, I think is even more powerful for people because you have such a unique perspective versus someone that hasn't had the opposite end just like so blatantly in their face. But
Hmm.
do you feel like at some point they merge, right? Like where it seems like they're so opposite, but that at some point come together where, with your wildlife biology background, you can find the spirituality within that.
Yes, but it's taken me time because it's more of a private thing for me in
Mm.
terms of, in my professional wildlife career. I have I'm not going to be like telling my coworkers, "Yo, like I had a moment today with a great blue heron." Like they mean
No,
they'll understand, but
yes.
it's more of like this thing where if I'm out in nature and I close my eyes and just like ground down, like when I'm even doing field work and I'm outside and I make eye contact with a robin for a little longer, I'm like, yeah, we both, our souls just acknowledge each other. Like that is, but at the same time, I know that robin is also purely here just foraging for worms for its young. Like it's not like trying to connect with me per se. I mean, of course, there are spiritual encounters we have with our loved ones that are crossed over spirits that want to connect to us through wildlife. That is a thing too. Um, but I just think I actually read a book and I highly recommend it to everyone. It's called Braiding Sweetgrass and it's written by Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer. She is a she's a scientist. She studies moss. She's a big professor at SUNY ESF, which is one of the New York SUNY schools. It's the environmental school. But she wrote this book and she's part Native American. So this book, Braiding Sweetgrass, is all about different plants. Each chapter is about a plant, and she will interweave her spiritual knowledge from her Native American background with scientific findings about the plants. And it's so interesting. Like she just I mean, she actually did a whole experiment with one of her PhD students on how to, they did different ways to collect sweetgrass. And she noticed that different tribes, Native American tribes, would either collect them singularly, like individual at a time, or
Yeah.
clumps of grass.
Hmm.
And but they also noticed that every time these women collected the grass and harvested it, they would thank it. They would give gratitude to the earth and to the grass.
Hmm.
And so they did an experiment. And they actually, when they applied for funding with this, it was a board of all old men, and all of them shot it down. No one wanted to give it, like, no one wanted to support research where you're adding spirituality and speaking to plants as part of your experiment. Like,
Wow.
they just didn't see any value behind it. And so they still did it anyways. And they came back with the results, and the grass grew back way more quickly when they spoke kind words to it and expressed their
Wow.
gratitude. Which is just so interesting to me.
Wow.
And also just like this is something we forget, and I mean I know this, we know this, but Native Americans were so spiritual and tied to the earth, and they were
Mm-hmm.
stewards of the land, and they had like this deep connection, and like earth just thrived. Like they just knew how to properly take care of the land. Meanwhile, we are destroying it constantly, and we're
Yeah.
just taking and taking and taking. And she talks a lot about there is this reciprocity, there's this reciprocal relationship that we should be having with nature. So that's something I try to do now too, is like express gratitude to, you know, the the birds and the bees. I'm also a beekeeper, right? So I love to, spend time with the bees and talk to them. But I actually have a few favorite trees that I will specifically go out and say hello to and speak to. I'll even, touch them or hug the tree and just kind of have a moment with the tree. And I just feel like it's just my way of letting them know that I am here and that I care about them and that I'm looking out for them, because I don't think we give nature enough love. It's just we take and take and trample on it. And it's just really simple. And anyone can just express their gratitude and love to earth. You can, I think the Native Americans did a lot of tobacco they would take, or coffee grounds. You can donate or just give back to the land. Um, but yeah, and I mean, I'm not, I don't have a Native American background, so I don't want to appropriate anything, but it's just something that's been really inspiring to me. It's just giving back to the land in a spiritual way. We could be so spiritual in a also scientific way. You can appreciate the tree for how it is and how it's naturally existing, but you can also just say that it has a soul. It's seen many more lifetimes than you probably have on this earth. So
I was thinking about that lately too. And what you said was just so beautiful. It seems like just becoming more conscious while being out in nature goes a long way. And what you're describing, I've uncovered to be, I call it grounded spirituality. So we have the spirituality that's a little bit more heady and like third eye opening, kind of like out of this world type of stuff. But what I've noticed in the past year, I guess, I think the most important thing we need to do right now is ground into our bodies and really live in a way that's more embodied with this earth. And what you brought up, I think, is so important because the Native Americans knew exactly what they were doing. And I, they're just popping up a lot right now, I think, for people because we're seeking that authentic way of being and we're on the land that they were on. So it's like the earth remembers and it holds a vibration. Everything is energy.
Hmm.
And I think that's why, as we're going down a route on this planet where we're expanding our consciousness and awareness, and the earth is coming with us, right? The earth is there before us. I feel like the trees are at that higher vibration. This is getting a little woo-woo, but a higher vibration and frequency than we are. And, being out in nature helps us ground into all of the energies that we're kind of leveling up into in a way. So, yeah, that is amazing. I'm so, so glad that you brought that up. And that book sounds like something that a lot of people would be interested in as well.
Yeah.
So, so with all that nature and stars and moon, I want to kind of get a little bit into your background and kind of what you do with astrology, your offerings with tarot and birth charts. That's just something that's so interesting to me. I'm not really that in depth with astrology, but would love to kind of just hear your perspective about it and anything that you kind of want to share about astrology in general. And even right now, what we're in Taurus season, moving into Gemini.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about with astrology. It's the more that I study this, the more I'm like, this is a lifetime of studying. It is so complex, so layered. So I study Placidus, which is the modern astrology. There's many different types of astrology. There's Vedic, the Indian astrology, which is a whole different type of birth chart. It looks so crazy different. There's the Hellenistic, which is traditional astrology. There's many more that I don't even know. So something I've learned is becoming an astrologer is I'm sticking with one one type to just focus on because it can get overwhelming and you can go down so many paths with it. But so I've been studying astrology seriously for the last like probably 4 years. I've gotten two, I've taken two courses on it and I just eat it up. I love it so much. It's basically human psychology and it's fascinating. And what I like to tell people is that astrology is a science. It's very much mathematical. So the way astrologers predict things or even read a birth chart is based on the exact positioning of the planets. And it's quite predictable with like, we know when we're going to be orbiting the moon and the sun. So it's the same idea with all the other planets in astrology.
Mhm.
And I always like to say to people too is that, you know, we as humans are affected by the moon. I mean, our Earth is affected by the moon, right? The moon affects our tides. The wildlife is a lot more active during full moons, and they usually tend to breed and mate during full moons. Um, Emergency room visits are higher during full moons. Like, there is something to be said for that. And what are we like? I think we're what, 70% water or something, or maybe I forget.
Something like that.
Something
Yeah,
like
but
that, right? Like, we
majority of
we have to be affected by the moon and thus all the
yes.
other planets. And in astrology, we only focus on the planets in our immediate solar system, up to Pluto and some asteroids, things like that. But I would like to think all of the gravitational forces and the way we are relating on Earth to those planets is affecting us. And so, yeah, so I typically give birth chart readings, which are a snapshot of the night sky the moment you came to Earth, the moment you were born. So you have to know down to the exact minute of when you arrived here and your location of where you were born. So when I look at a birth chart, it shows me the horizon line and what planets were above the horizon when you were born and what were below the horizon, like in the southern hemisphere. And the positionings, which are all very mathematical, and this is all through a software, so I don't know how this software exactly does it. Um, but then when I look at the relations with the planets in your chart, like if they're next to each other, if they're across
Mhm.
from each other, like those all have different ways of expressing themselves in your personality. Um, and as an astrologer, we always say that you have free will. Like it's not like, oh, this is exactly who I have to be and everything. But when you get a birth chart reading or you study your astrology, your specific one, you're like, whoa, this is so accurate. Like this is, and you kind of already know all these things about yourself, but it just is affirming whatever you learn. You're like, it
Yeah.
makes it makes you appreciate maybe some qualities about yourself that you might have stifled or that maybe somebody picked on, you for back in the day. But those are like your superpowers. And I like to think that like when I give astrology readings, I'm helping you find your superpowers, but also like find your soul's purpose and your karmic destiny. And yeah, and then I do predictive stuff too. Sometimes people ask me like, what should I know for my career, for love? And I can look into that a little bit. And it's been really fun. And yeah, it's just fascinating. I mean, I'm always studying my own chart and I'm like, wow, like so much has evolved. And there's some things that I looked at and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And then a year or two later, I'm like, whoa, actually, no, it actually does make sense. So yeah, so it's just I have a picture of myself when I was really little. I had like I had like a little astrology shirt on. I mean, I used to love reading the horoscopes and all the magazines, newspapers. I'd go straight to the horoscopes. I want to read about what's going on for me. Again, it's like that same idea of a magical thing that can happen to you, like this other realm. Like I just always loved to think that I had something more in store for me. And I think all of us do. I think we just have to have faith that, like, all of us are so special and we are all here for a specific reason. And we chose to come to this earth at this exact moment, and we have gifts to share and people to connect with and experiences to have, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. And I just remembered for like I think it was my 10th birthday, my mom brought an astrologer and like we had a slumber party and like I had like 10 girlfriends come and like I think one mom was like no, but everyone else got their birth chart right.
Oh my God, I love
I
that.
know. I need to pull up pictures from that, I feel like. See if my mom still has that. That's crazy. And I'd love to see your astrologer photo with your, shirt on when you were a kid. That inner child stuff, it's like who you are, right? And it's in your birth chart.
Yep,
You're
absolutely.
gonna end up here anyway.
Exactly. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Because I think if you gave me a reading when I was in college, I would have been like, whoa, I don't know about that. Like,
Right, right. You kind of have to like
spiritual?
experience it. You have to walk through the steps and then realize, okay, this all makes sense, like all aspects, I'm sure. No, that's amazing. And I would just love for you to just let everyone know where people could find you and what offerings you have right now that are open, and kind of all of your jazz. So, people can kind of tap into your magic if they feel called to.
Oh, sure. Happy to. So the main platform I'm on is Instagram. My Instagram handle is Nicole in Nature, all separated by underscores. And there I post, it's a mix. I call myself a spiritual scientist. So you're going to see videos of me doing yoga because I also teach yoga. You're going to see videos of me maybe talking about astrology or me outside hiking and telling you fun facts about nature. It's a mix. I have got such a mix of things. So if you're into nature, if you're into astrology, tarot, sometimes I'll put some tarot card pulls on there. Give me a follow. And yeah, so I do offer virtual birth chart readings, also tarot card readings. I also teach yoga, and I'm happy to offer that virtually. It's in the works to offer a weekly class online. That's something I really want to do. So please stay tuned for that. But otherwise, I mean, you can always come to me in person. I'm based in Bridgeport, Connecticut. So I teach out of Westport and Darien and that area. So if you're in the area, feel free to come take a class with me. And yeah, and I do all sorts of, I do bachelorettes, I do bridal showers, I could do parties like for people that want readings, or or yoga classes. Like I said, I'm the jack of all trades here, so just a lot of different ways to connect with me. And so yeah, and you can also I have a website. It's just nicoleinnature.com. So you can check out my offerings there as well.
I'll link those below. So everything will be linked below, all of her handles and her website. And Nicole, this was so much fun. I think we definitely need to do this again because we could probably talk about so many different aspects of spirituality, I think, for a
Absolutely.
very long time. But
Oh
to
yeah.
keep this kind of short and sweet for today, thank you so much for coming. I can't wait to have you again. And everyone, please check out Nicole and all of her offerings because she brings a lot of magic to this world.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This was wonderful. We'll
Of
definitely do it again.
course.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please check out my socials at The Om Way on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Spotify. You can also find me at theomlight.com. Sessions are now open and available. One-on-one sessions are super helpful for anything you may be going through in your life to help you feel more aligned and clear.